Hey guys, what's going on? Paul here. Welcome back to another Cardano live stream, and probably a bit different than some of the ones I've done in the past today. Bringing on a few experts in the NFT space, other content creators that know an awful lot more about NFTs than I do. So I'm looking forward to getting into this to find out more about what's going on in the space. NFTs is a big part of crypto and Cardano this is as well. So I'm going to go straight around the table here, get introductions from the guys, and then we'll get into their thoughts on NFTs. And anyone tuning in, please do share it out. Bring in as many people as possible. The more people that come in, the better the questions. And leave questions below. The idea of these, anyone who's been on my streams before, try and bring in as many questions as possible. And you guys decide the flow of where our conversation goes. So Blake is beside me. I will let him kick it off with introduction to himself. And the links to all these guys' channels are in the description down below. Make sure and go and subscribe to them too. So Blake, very welcome and thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. My name is Blake. I have a channel called Blake CNFT. I have been making content for about 2 years, coming up on 2 years now, and I've been in Cardano since early 2021. So right as the market was picking up, I was curious, and I had some friends send some messages about crypto, so I kind of jumped in and figured out what this was all about. So it's been an exciting journey. Yeah, I do a weekly live stream every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, where I go over, the top CNFTs of the week, some other different drama and different things that happen on Twitter. So I love to cover some of those other important topics to kind of catch people up to speed who might not spend as much time on Twitter or just in this space, but are still curious about it. I also have a project called the Spark Lab. It's a video content library. And I just love educating and informing people about this space and about NFTs.
Nice. And Tommy, we'll go with you next.
Yeah, my name is Tommy. I'm 1/3 of a podcast on Cardano called Freedom 35ers. We've been making content over on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple for over 2 years now. Started in October of 2021. We do a weekly live stream every Monday with different guests, community members, and we also run a podcast that drops every Friday that's recorded. And we've been in the space. We just are kind of documenting our journey as three friends who have been traders, degens, as you like to call them, and just overall community members. And we kind of tell our story maybe in a more entertaining way through the podcast kind of format and live interviews. So we know quite a bit. We've had both Blake and Block onto the stream many a time. So we like to talk NFTs and have a good time.
Nice, and thanks. And yeah, I appreciate you guys jumping on. It's a bit earlier in the US. For me, it's 9 o'clock. It's the middle of the day for you guys. So I know not always as easy to get on in the middle of the day. So appreciate your time. Jason, you were on pretty recently on the channel, but let's give the introduction to yourself too.
Yeah, thank you for having me on again, Paul. And it's awesome to be able to have the group of guys here today to just kind of talk about some of this stuff. Like Tommy was saying, we've had these calls in the past, just talking about the NFT market. So yeah, I have my own YouTube channel as well. And one thing I want to say too, I know I'm jumping around. Sorry, my lips aren't as synced, dealing with some camera issues. But yeah, I have my own channel called BlockIsHot. I cover a lot of Cardano NFT as well as some DeFi content as well. And then I have my own NFT project called Jelly Cubes, which I think maybe 2 weeks ago I was on your channel, Paul, to talk about how this fractionalized utility token process works. But yeah, that's just a short introduction.
Nice. And I see someone said, Blake, next week is your 100th episode. Congratulations.
Right.
It's
episode 100.
Wow.
Really
Crazy.
nice milestone to hit, and takes a lot of effort. Like all of us know here, it's not as simple as just clicking the record button to throw out a video. There's a lot goes on behind it. So congrats on the work, and I'm sure it's helped a lot of people out there. Peter, good to see you on. Really solid guy from the Cardano community. Lots of familiar names in the comments too. And look, any questions for the guys or anyone else, then just drop them in and we'll pull them in as we go. Going to start out with NFTs. We'll go backwards around the way we've done the introductions there. Jason, start out with your thoughts on the NFT space right now. So like the rest of crypto, it's like a roller coaster. There's ups, there's downs, but currently, what's your thoughts on the space? You have people who say NFTs are dead, they're never going to come back. You have others that say NFTs will go higher than they were before. So not just price, but what's your own thoughts on the NFT space right now and some of the innovations that's in it, maybe?
Yeah, I would say it's like it's hard for anyone to really know what's gonna happen. I think like even for us, we've noticed in the last year, last 2 years, just how much has changed in the space, different trends that have happened, different, things that were meta and like people were super bullish on. And, over time in this generalized crypto world, we're still figuring out where things are going. So it's really interesting. You have a lot of these NFT projects and crypto projects are using this blockchain technology to be able to do things that have never been possible before, or to be able to do things in a different way that was once again not possible. And I feel like a lot of NFT projects or crypto projects are trying to figure out, okay, how can we use this different technology to provide some sort of value? So as far as like the NFT space right now, it's similar to, the DeFi space in the most part, where a lot of these projects have been getting hit pretty hard during this bear market. Some of them have run out of money, run out of funding, kind of given up on giving up on the project or moving on to something else. But there's still a ton of projects that are out there building, trying to innovate, come up with different things. So it's interesting. Like we've seen a generalized push into some of like the larger NFT projects that might have a little bit more survivability over the past like 3 to 6 months. But there's still, a lot of projects building that are doing cool things. And my personal opinion, though, I think the actual tech for NFTs just opens up so many doors of possibilities that there's no way that NFTs aren't going to be here in the longer term. It's just what are the NFTs going to be doing? And that's the question. In the beginning, it might have been, oh, we think more people are going to buy this after us, or, oh, look at this cool picture of something. But I think it's going to stem into a lot more different use cases as time goes on, and we're constantly seeing that.
Nice, yeah. And I see questions coming in as well. I'm marking them as they're coming in. I'll ask them later on when we get to the next questions. Tommy, what's your own thoughts on the space right now, and even how you've seen it evolve since you've been involved? I think everyone here has been in at least 2 years. So
yeah,
how
it's changed significantly. We were kind of reflecting on that a few weeks ago, just of where we were back in 2021 at this time, where it was pretty much a project was minting and you weren't asking questions. You were just kind of jumping into it. It was purely based on speculation. And at that time, really assets were just kind of, you could make money on them. People were having a fun time with it. I think we were still discovering what NFTs were. It was such a new thing. To where we are today, where, like you said, everything's evolved so much. Like we talk about the word utility, all these different apps and platforms, different groups that are all been formed through this, and that, this space has evolved so much. What worked way back when is not, it's not, you can't even do that anymore, right? Like if you were to launch a project just purely based on speculation, projects, it wouldn't see the light of day. So nowadays, it's super interesting, especially seeing things like what Block is built, like a community that's based around, just bettering, whether it's bettering themselves or getting more information, education, plays, any of that stuff. Blake, education content out there with Spark Lab, to some of these big branded stuff like Ape Society, Dirt Birds, Clay Nation, like those, they become essentially businesses and communities that are starting to grow. I think a lot of them are still finding their wings. I don't think we've really seen what their final forms are going to be. I think the ones that are doing well right now have been the ones that have been able to pivot or adapt kind of with the times. And a lot of the ones that haven't or never had a plan to start with are the ones that we're seeing like, oh my goodness, this project's no longer here. And it's like, well, did you really expect them to still be here based on how they started? So for me, just being inside the space, I don't really mint anything too much anymore unless it's something that's been established. I exited a lot of positions that I took maybe way back when, kind of stupidly, and the ones that I hold and have conviction in long term right now, I'm kind of just sitting on, riding it out and seeing how things progress.
Nice. Yeah, I think we'll get on to some of the projects that you guys have your eye on later on in the stream. And just when you were talking there, this comment came up. This is exactly what I was going to say after as well, was that when we got NFTs on Cardano first in, was it the Merry Hard Fork 2021? There were the first tokens or the first anything you could do on Cardano. And it was just crazy. And it really reminded me of from being back in the ICO craze in 2017. It just seemed the exact same. You come up with any random idea and it just minted out. There was just pure degen hype that was going on. And I think it's good that we've moved away from that stage, that we are at the stage where people are questioning, well, what's behind it? And it's also making founders, I think we talked about this, Jess, when you were on towards the end, was people didn't plan out how they were going to build the project. It was just, they had an idea and it doesn't matter. We'll just raise money and we don't look at how much we need or what capabilities are actually needed for the project. And we'll get into some of that stuff later on. But Blake, your own thoughts on where we are now or what you've seen in your time within the space?
Yeah, I think there's been a big shift to not just minting everything and really trying to be a little bit more picky. You know, one person when I was just getting into the space, because, you know, ETH was ahead of us in terms of NFTs. One person I really like is Gary Vee, and so pretty early he was like, "Hey, this is an emerging space." You know, he's pretty bullish on it, and I trust, you know, most of his opinions and most of his takes. And pretty much at the beginning, he was like, most of these are going to fail. So, and also I think I think the most important thing about NFTs is just kind of knowing your own personality and what is your risk tolerance. Because, I mean, there were things that I minted that obviously, like, I regret and was like, oh, I probably shouldn't have done that. That was stupid. But I think for the most part, I navigated it relatively well, just because if I really didn't like it as a general premise, even though I knew I could make money on it, I just didn't feel comfortable with it and didn't want to do it. So I think that there are, well, one of the things is with your personality, like what part of NFTs gets you excited? Is it being a part of community, like, you know, Jelly Cubes, being able to trade plays and talk with the people who are, you know, really, really involved in the space or can do some research for you? Is it about, you know, collectability? Do you really like certain traits or certain attributes and you want to collect those across multiple collections? Are you a big gamer and you want to, you know, like a cornucopias or, you know, whatever other gaming project you want to, like Goombles or something, and you're willing to kind of put your money into that. I think it's much more not trying to follow the hype and just kind of mint or buy what you are interested in, and then just kind of going for that, and not so much for the profit taking. But that's kind of an advanced level, because you know, it's easy to kind of get sucked into that mentality. And I actually think it'll be really interesting as we see this, you know, we see a little bit of light at the end of this tunnel, just in terms of the general markets. We are experienced because we're still here. But when this new wave comes in, it's just like it always happens with a meme coin or something else, right? The hype cycle and the hype train starts. It's possible that we get to at least maybe a smaller phase this next time, where people are just minting for whatever, because, you know, and they're maybe more naive and in the place that we were a couple of years ago. So I'm curious to see how that shakes out as well.
Yeah, I think we will get there again, where you will have the degen just gets a bit of hype. The people behind them get more sophisticated in how they plan out the launches. And like we thought when we seen the ICO launch that we'd never see that type of hysteria again. But we did see that. We did see that when a bull market comes and people have made some money, they start to look around and say, well, what's the next one that's going to do 10x, 20x, 30x out of the gate? And they just start throwing money around. And hopefully, as you say, we have the experience from being around for a while now, but I can still see myself, I will have that small part of my portfolio. I generally have percentages of my portfolio. There's some in the high risk. There's some that I will gamble with. There's some that I absolutely never touch, will not touch for 5-10 years, maybe more. And it sits away somewhere. And I think everybody should have that type of portfolio, where unfortunately some people have 100% risk portfolio, where it's just like hopping to the next and the next. And you could get 3 big wins, but all it takes is one rug pull, or maybe not even a rug pull. That might be another topic for today or another time, of rug pull versus failed projects, because not every failed project starts out to be a rug pull or anything like that. Well, let me see what I've been missing here in the questions. There was some good ones. And if you guys, I think you guys can see the comments as well. If you see anything and want to pull them up, just shout. There was something around.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go on.
Well, I was going to say Jason has great. There was one of his videos. Probably it was a while ago, but Jason has a really interesting theory on how the money flows when stuff gets crazy. You know, it's in the bigger tokens like Bitcoin, and we see this too. Like then it flows to Cardano, then it flows into DeFi of Cardano, that it, you know, then maybe some flows into NFTs. So it's that cycle of profit where, you know, we get to these different phases. And I don't know, Jason can explain it better than I can, but
yeah, like, and I even saw Ada Legend. He said there are cycles. Some of the old trends will come back.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things where, like, a lot of times you can look back if it's happened once. You don't necessarily want to assume, but there's a good chance that it can happen again, right? So, like in crypto, we saw, you know, NFTs absolutely explode. And if you think about it, there weren't nearly as many people that were in crypto, let's say 3-4 years ago, compared to what's going to happen in 3-4 years in the future. So it's like now all of a sudden, if you have 10, 15, 20, 50 times more people that are getting involved, what sort of things are going to play out in this next cycle? Probably some of the things that happened in the previous cycle, but some adaptations as there's more adoption, more regulation, and more clarity in the space. Because I tell a lot of people, it's like when it comes to, you know, and being an NFT project founder, there isn't some book that I can read and it's like, hey, this is the exact steps of what you do. This is how you run a community, and this is how you get people interested, and this is how you adapt, and these are the things you're supposed to build, and this is how you use the technology, and this is the blockchain you're supposed to be on. It's like there is a lot of stuff that you have to learn as you go through the process, even if your core main idea before getting in was very sound, just because so many things change in the space. Like there could have been someone building on Terra Luna, for example, and then Terra Luna collapses and you're like, oh my God, you know, there's so many things that have yet to play out. And that's what's really cool about this space, is that it's this emerging space where there will probably be more cycles, just like the one that we went through in 2013, where Bitcoin ran first, and then 2017 every 4 years, and then 2021. And now we're looking at 2025 is supposedly the next big run. And we have our halving in April, and we have a Bitcoin spot ETFs most likely getting improved in January. Like BlackRock just said, they expect an approval by January. So it's one of these interesting things where each time this cycle plays out, it's bigger and bigger than the previous cycle, and there's more information to kind of work with. And I think like one of the transitions we're going to see in the next big cycle is I do think you're going to have a lot more institutions and a lot more big players start to get into the space. And similar to how last run, you would have like Adidas and Nike and even Pepsi and some beer brands like start to make NFT projects. I think that's going to be the case even more so this next run, where you start getting really big, legitimate teams. And you can even see on Epic Games, Epic Games already has like a blockchain-based game. I can't remember the name now, but I think you're going to start seeing some of these major companies get involved. And kind of the image of what NFTs are is slowly going to change in this process and become a lot more legitimate and a lot more, I guess, like the bar is going to raise in my personal opinion.
Yeah. And to expand upon that too, like you talked about cycles, a lot of what took off in 2021, it was, you know, we had that massive run during that time. People made a lot of money who were in crypto. And eventually when you make a lot of money, a lot of people, especially on the degen side, on the gambling side, they want to spend it on something. And NFTs came around at that perfect time where a lot of people overflowed those profits and that money they maybe had made during that last cycle into that. And I think, like you said, as this next run happens, you'll start to see NFTs have their place. Although I do think there will be a little bit of a pivot out there, maybe not a direct correlation this time, because NFTs are also they're still finding themselves too, and what they are. Like you said, if big brands start to come in, like a Coke or a Pepsi, and people find that to be valuable, or there's a fun game that was a blockchain game, it doesn't matter how or what blockchain it's on, people are going to find a way to go ahead and pursue that because they're interested in that. And I think that's really going to be one of the big things going forward, is how big brands and how actual legitimate products are able to advertise out and attract new attention. That's really going to be the next onboarding process for what an NFT is. I think where we think the classic profile picture is, I think there will always be a place for that, but I think it will evolve way beyond that, especially running into 2025.
Yeah, I think it started out with just the NFT profile picture, collectibles, but now people are having to think more. And for me, I really look forward to when NFTs have more real world use cases. Someone mentioned in the comments there as well about the partnership with NMKR and tokenization of diamonds that was announced at the summit and things like that, where the NFT gives you access to something outside of crypto as well. And even in gaming, was it Roblox? I didn't actually get to watch the video. I've seen headlines. I don't know if you guys seen it, talking about maybe having NFTs in that. My kids are mad about Roblox and the amount of even their class and friends that are all into it. And there's a really great onboarding process that can be there because there's generations now that are growing up playing games. They're used to having in-game currencies. My kids are always on about Roblox or Robux. Still haven't got it for them, but they keep at me about it. But it's like they already know what the concept of digital money is or digital collectibles. So they can really be onboarded there. There is games that can bring them on board like that. But I see even the cycles people are saying about CryptoKitties 2017, it made a comeback in the last cycle. And there's other questions about some of the, where are they gone now? Some of the earlier projects on Cardano, some of the OG projects. What's your thoughts on them? There was a comment, I can't find it now at the minute, but this one maybe was about the floor prices and bleeding of OG projects with people moving to newer projects. Do you see some of them OG projects having a comeback in the space, or have they seen the rest days? Or I know it's a mixed bag, but for anyone that wants to start us out on it.
Yeah, and I want to say real quick before tagging into this, because I see a lot of people kind of talking about tokenization in general, and you were talking about with Roblox, some of that becoming NFTs, and whether it's different gaming projects or even what Pudgy Penguins is doing with their penguin toys in Walmarts, and you can scan them and get the asset, and concert tickets, real estate, card titles. I think that's going to be the big thing that's happening in the future, and I don't know which main projects are really going to be able to tackle that at a large scale. But I think that's going to be something that's going to be massive next run. Just having that, especially as things get more and more digital, and being able to have that digital ownership and being able to use that blockchain tech for it. But yeah, Blake, I don't know if you want to tag Ulcram's question first about the OG project.
Just before we go to the OG ones, actually, just to continue on what you said there, I think NFT started as art and collectible art, and people seeing it as bringing art online and being able to buy and sell. And I think going forward, that will be one of the smallest parts of NFTs, and it might be against the grain what other people think. But I think NFTs that have utility and that aren't just collectibles will be far bigger, because the technology that's behind it can be used in so many places rather than just being collectibles. Like collectibles, I'm not a person who would buy art or spend a lot of money on art to put on my wall. So I'm not really the type of person that would go into that side. But I am interested in where the technology can go. And maybe we'll pick that one up later. But we'll go to the OG projects. And Blake, I think you were going to tune in.
Yeah. And I love this conversation because we just keep. I'm gonna pick up on your trail for a second.
We're all over the place. Sorry.
No, it's not all over the place. It's just I really want to share, and then I jump into.
Well, if you have something on the previous topic, finish that out, and then we'll go to the OGs if you want.
Well, I think it's really interesting to think about how as NFTs kind of move more into the culture and become more mainstream, whether like concert tickets or Delta airplane ticket, right? It doesn't have to be worth a lot of money, right? Like nobody's going to buy your Delta airline ticket, but if it's starting to be housed and kind of built on top of a blockchain framework, whichever one gets that opportunity. But I think as we start, because the term NFT right now doesn't have a great connotation to most people. It's like, oh, that thing that you hope will be $1 million, or this monkey picture. But I think as some of those mainstream things come online, then it reframes and redefines what the word NFT is, and I think that's an overall positive for everyone. But in terms of the OGs, I do think there's a place. Okay, so again, going back to my personality, I love collectibles. When I was little, I collected basketball cards. My brothers were big in like the basketball card stuff. And then when I was in elementary school, Pokemon was a big thing. So I collected Pokemon cards, still have a lot of my old collections. So for me, I think it's a well, and then also the third part of that is it depends on how successful Cardano gets, because if Cardano becomes a really, it's already a top 10. But if it gets to where we all hope it's going to go, I think just by the fact that some of those projects are historically early, they'll just have some intrinsic value of people that will want to collect that if their personality is to be a collector. But one of my favorite projects is still Space Buds, just because they were the first 10K collection. And I like the collectability, and I think the version 2 art, even though there was a lot of drama about the V1 to V2, but I think the V2 actually looks better. And so, but just because it's OG doesn't mean it's going to win. There were a lot of OG projects as I was initially collecting, because that was really the only thing you could do on the blockchain at that time other than stake when that first came out. So that was an interesting thing to do, but not every OG project is going to make it, clearly. But
yeah, I think for the OG projects too, you definitely can't rule them out. If anything, they have an advantage, because the ones that are still here and thriving in this market currently means that they've gone through a full cycle of almost two and a half years now. You take things like you said, Space Buzz is an example of that. But they got that first mover advantage. But you see something maybe like recently with the Dirtbirds. Dirtbirds minted out in early, late 2021, and here they are. The talk of NFTs over here on Cardano, because they've been able to pivot. And one key thing for them that we were kind of talking about over on our show this week is just the branding capability of these NFTs. Like they had those dirt plushies over at NFT LV, and the people that were lining up to get those, and those things sold out instantly. They wanted that brand, and necessarily wasn't that about the NFT, but they liked the community, they liked that brand. And I think as those brands start to grow, it doesn't necessarily need to be a Cardano thing at that point. They could just have, hey, we have a big business over here where we've attracted a bunch of different people that may not even know what NFTs or crypto are, but it's going to bring them this way because they're over here on Cardano. And I think the ones that establish that brand and can hold that community together are the ones that have a great chance to continue to keep thriving. So I don't think OG projects time alone is not a metric to measure by, but I think the ones that can pivot, adapt, and really attract an outside audience outside of the little bubble we're in are the ones that are really going to do well.
Yeah, I agree. And if they can build a community, that's so vital in NFTs, but even outside, if you look at any project in crypto, you're going to have good and bad times. But if you've built a solid community, that's what can really help you get through it. And even for holding the project, that it doesn't completely tank, because when people see a project tank, they start to get scared. They start to just dump it and sell it off. But if you built a solid community that really sees the vision or where you're going with the project, then that really can help in the long run. And a very important comment by Owen there to smash the like button if you haven't done that yet. And anyone tuning in, the 3 guys that are with me today, their channels are in the description. So make sure and subscribe to them as well before you leave this. And what was your first NFT that you minted on Cardano? For me, I done it through a Google Doc. Can I remember which one that was? That was my first NFT.
The Cardano bits?
That's the one.
Cardano bits.
Yeah.
Still hold it. Just as I can't sell it because it was the first one that I bought. Well, I bought 3 or 4 of them, but I still hold 2 of them just for that history.
Yep.
I think mine was it was a derivative artwork of the unsigned algorithms back then. Somebody was doing derivative art of it, and he was minting them out and just sent the ADA in to an address, and I got an NFT back. And fun fact was the first NFT I ever bought on the blockchain for 8 ADA over on CNFT.io was a Charmander holding a Gucci ball. And I still hold that thing to this day. Little sentimental thing over there. But yeah, I had no idea what we were doing when we first got in. You just bought something, and it was just fun to experience the tech.
Yeah.
What
about you guys?
For me, oh yeah, I mean, for me, it was similar to Tommy. I didn't really know what I was buying. I was like getting involved in a bunch of different chains, and I was doing DeFi over here, and I was all over the place. But it was Chibidango Heroes and Planet Pals were the same day, like around the same time, and I had minted both of those. And I ended up making money on the Chibidango Heroes. Planet Pals, it was like, I don't know if I ended up making any money on it. But yeah, I think both projects are still here and building. I haven't kept up to date with them though.
Yeah, I think the first big one that I got was Cardano Trees, which sparked us doing the podcast because there was a ridiculous amount of money that was able to be made during those early days, and it got our friends' attention, which eventually was what formed our podcast. But Cardano Trees was a notable one early on for me.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like, people just put up a random address and there was millions sent to it in a few minutes. It was just complete degen time. And even with Cardano Bits, I remember the site fell down and he ended up putting up a Google Doc with an address in it, and you had to send, us being stupid or whatever you want to say, we sent it. We did actually get our NFTs at the time, but
took about 2 weeks, but we got them.
Yeah, was that one of your first ones? Or
yeah, that was the first. Yeah.
Nice.
Because I think most people were interested in trying it out, but then also people had already seen the immediate success of Space Buds, and the two minting experiences were just completely opposite. But it was funny, and we were just like, yeah. And then they said, yeah, it was horrible. They had so much work to do to get that to write that ship. Oh man, there was no automatic send and receive. It was all analog. They just entered the addresses like manually to send out or refund, because then they had to send a sheet of like if you actually got it or not. It was wild.
The level of trust people had back then, us included, just blindly sending ADA to an address, hoping something would get back. It's wild to think that was a common thing now. And nowadays, it's automatic. You just click. It's a multi-sig transaction. You get your NFT back. God forbid somebody waited 3 days or more, 2 weeks to get an NFT. You'd see people be in flames at that point, trying to do that.
Yeah, and anyone watching, actually, let us know in the comments what was your first one. It'd be good to see some of the names and see what are some of the early names, whether they're still here or whether they've moved on from the space since. And just looking to see, have I missed anything else? Peter plans to sell trees as NFTs. Then people would own their own tree. The coordinates. That was something similar to what was done at the summit. Was that 2021 where Very Tree done it? And I think, Peter, out in Asia, you're planting a lot of trees. I think I've seen different things on Twitter from that. What else have I got here? I think I had some of the questions. So we covered a little bit about real world tokenization, but we'll go back to it. And what's your thoughts on using that as a form of NFTs, or to show what NFTs can do?
I mean, I think it's going to be massive. I think, though, that you're going to need, like, if you actually want to be the project that offers this service, it's going to be very difficult to compete, because I think there's going to be major companies like Binance or Coinbase or just the major players in the game. I even saw Floki recently, the meme coin. They launched a new token called TokenFi, and it's all going to be focused around tokenization of different things. So it's one of those aspects where I think it's going to be a really big space. I think there's going to be a decent amount of different projects and protocols trying to make it. But I think the big boys, in a sense, are going to be the ones that dominate that space specifically. Like, because when you start talking about tokenizing real estate and like fractionalizing real estate, or when you start talking about tokenizing the car industry or the insurance industry, there's all these different industries. So I think it's going to be a really big thing. And I think it's going to also at the same time require a really large team to be able to pull that sort of thing off. But I can definitely, I mean, it's just like a better way of doing things. Like, imagine someone in here brought up concert tickets. It's like, imagine instead of going to Ticketmaster or StubHub, where you're paying 20% to buy a ticket plus all of these fees, then now all of a sudden, all of these tickets were on the blockchain where people could buy and sell directly to each other, and just have like a royalty fee that goes to the actual people selling the tickets instead of a marketplace, necessarily like StubHub or Ticketmaster, right? And like different artists could have cool collectible NFTs that might give them exclusive VIP access or different benefits or loyalty programs. I mean, even in Ticketmaster right now, something like Taylor Swift will automatically sell out. Imagine being able to have loyalty NFTs that every single time you buy a concert ticket, now that NFT stays in your wallet, you get a collectible. And now all of a sudden, instead of just having these concert tickets go out in the open that either get botted and flipped or whatever the case is, now all of a sudden they might be able to say, hey, who owns X amount of NFTs? Now they actually get exclusive access to buying our tickets, right? So it's like, that's just one industry that I think can be revolutionized or heavily improved by tokenization. But I think if a company was to come out with that, that company might be like Ticketmaster. You know what I'm saying? Like, because they already have the audience and the economies of scale and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see how these different things play out.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up too. I don't know if you guys heard of this, but there's a website or a place right now called courtyard.io. and they run at tokenized. They tokenize your real assets, and it's actually backed by Brinks. They're secured in their vaults. And so they insure trillions of dollars of money throughout the globe, and this is a global thing as well. So what you basically do is that Pokemon card, that whatever rated thing you have, you can actually send that into them. They'll tokenize your asset back to you, insure it in that vault, so you have that digital identity in your wallet, and when you move it, you know that asset is actually backed and stored in their vault, and if you ever want to claim it, you can actually claim back and forth between the two. So that's a thing that's actually happening right now inside the blockchain. I can imagine that as times go on, there's going to be more and more things. That's just for the collectible side of thing, right? You can tokenize pretty much anything. But like you were saying, Block, with like Ticketmaster, it's going to be interesting to see who the blockchain and what kind of tech they use, because it's going to be the big companies, right? They're going to buy up that tech or buy a dev to go ahead and program it, because you're going to want to still do it on Ticketmaster's site. They're not going to want to take you away from them. So whatever that tech is underneath is the interesting part, how they actually implement that and what chains find a scalable solution for the needs of that many people to onboard.
Yeah, I think Ticketmaster could probably step in and do that now if they wanted, and I'm sure they're watching it, but at the minute they have too much of a monopoly, too much control, making too much money from being that centralized entity that does it all, that if they do move to NFTs, then they have to share royalties and they have to share fees and stuff like that. So I think they will move there, but it will be after someone else tries to move there first. And then they have the power and the money to come in and do it. Like you were mentioning about tickets. And I think it really is such a good use case, because even afterwards, like the ticket is collectible, that maybe it gives you access to something else after. It gives you access to a membership or there, but if you multiple tickets, it gives you a white list for the next ticket sale. So there's an incentive for people to buy the ticket after the event. So I could only care about going to the event. I want the ticket, the NFT, I go to the event. I'm happy with that part. Someone else might want some of the other utility that NFT gives, and I get to sell on and get back part of what I put into it. And it really is, there's a lot of possibilities there, I think.
Dude, you know what I think? I think a lot of this central have NFTs, right? And that's what, like, from a profit model. Like, if you're Ticketmaster, why come out with NFTs and split the fees and make it more decentralized? Like, if you're something like Fortnite, why make it so people's skins they can resell rather than just being able to sell 1 million skins that are off chain and they can just keep selling them, right? So what I think is going to happen is these companies are going to be forced to get into NFTs, because at the end of the day, consumers are going to start demanding it, in my opinion, because now all of a sudden, when it comes to games, right now, Fortnite's making a ton of money, not needing to do any NFTs at all. And people are willing to buy the skins. And it's like, why make 5% on a skin selling on the market like afterwards if I can just keep selling a bunch of these skins, right? But I think what's going to happen is smaller games start coming in that start offering these additional benefits, such as actually ownership of your assets or being able to earn something or being able to get exclusive benefits, whatever the case is. You're going to start seeing a transition of major players now needing to adopt that sort of model. And we saw this with Fortnite when it came out. It was completely free. And they revolutionized the gaming industry, because for the longest time, games were $60 a game or $80 a game, whatever the case is. And now all of a sudden they came out with a game that was completely free to play and was all transactional based and all skins based. And now all of a sudden you're seeing a lot of games come out with that similar model. So it's interesting. I think what's going to happen is the model is just going to keep changing. But as things get tokenized, there's going to be this demand in the sense for things to become more decentralized, where people actually want to have more ownership and more rights to what they're buying than some sort of centralized authority.
Yeah, I see comments there. Am I breaking up for you guys at all? Or I see some comments about that I was breaking up. Hopefully it's okay again. Anyway, if it was, sorry, I interrupted someone who was going to jump in there.
Well, I was just going to say that it'll be interesting to see what. So the example that I'm thinking of right now, and I haven't, admittedly, I haven't been to the site in a while, but Top Shot, NBA Top Shot collectible kind of NFT, NBA moments. They're on the Flow, or I forget what their blockchain is, but it's not Ethereum. It's not like a common one. So it is on the blockchain, but you essentially have to go through their marketplace because it's like their own. It's a closed system in a sense where it's just kind of all in their thing. So Ticketmaster could say, we're on the blockchain, but if they kind of make their own little closed system, then it probably is not going to really have much more value for the user than it's on a blockchain than it is just on Web 2 where it is now. So it will be really interesting to see whoever can try to do this ticket sale or whatever industry, real estate, all that kind of stuff. If it's on a Cardano like decentralized chain, that's when you don't have to do the fees of a Ticketmaster, but you could just go to several different competitors and pick which one you want to do. But at that point I will say I have to dip out. I got something else I need to do. But I really appreciate Paul being able to come on, and you're in good hands with these two. They're very knowledgeable, and love these guys.
Yeah, no, Blake, thanks very much. We really appreciate your time coming on. And anytime you guys are up for it, we set up more of a regular stream because I'm enjoying diving deeper into this, and we're just going to get into projects. Last 60 seconds before you go, any projects that people should pay more attention to? And I don't mean price-wise, or just projects that are doing something different. And or if you have to run now, go for it.
No. I'd love to do that. So again, I like to use the framework of a personality because I really do think it really is just about like what you enjoy doing. But if you are a community kind of person, you want to have an NFT and that makes you part of a community. Jason's Jelly Cubes, like that's the ultimate. So shout out to Jason for Jelly Cubes. Collectability, again, I think SpaceBuds has it. I think they're going to continue to have it, whether it's a new person or someone who was the one that minted the SpaceBud. I think they're going to have a large market share on Cardano going forward. Gaming, equine NFT. Some people, I've seen some recent tweets, like people have kind of been a little bit frustrated with the development. And as someone who's minted and has kind of been holding for a long time, I can somewhat agree with that sentiment, but they have been really good with doing weekly updates on YouTube, or at least semi regular updates on the YouTube channel, so that their town hall meetings have been helpful. And I think they're pretty close now to having somewhat of a playable demo here for us in the next month or two. So that's one has somewhat popular and could have a catalyst event coming up soon. So if you haven't done the digital racing and breeding as equine NFTs, that's a good one. And my dark horse is Chains of War. They're a smaller project, but they have a really hardcore. I see Dusty Death in the chat. That's a Chains of War. They have a really hardcore community. I think they have about 10% unique wallet holders, but their floor they minted for 100 and they're still at like 125. Now, ADD USD has done its thing, but that's a solid hardcore community, and they're trying to go after like if you're familiar with like a Escape from Tarkov, like a shooter looter kind of idea, but on the blockchain. That one's kind of a dark horse for me that I'm interested in seeing how that plays out. Those are probably my 3 or 4 with Jelly Cubes.
Yeah, appreciate that. Chains of War is actually, someone tagged me in a video of theirs last week, and it's on my list here to dive a bit deeper into. But the quality looks really good, and good to hear that Equine are getting close and must catch up with Fahad. Had him on the channel there a while back as well, talking about it, but I haven't paid attention. But Blake, really appreciate your time today, and we'll definitely catch up soon.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
guys.
See you, Blake.
Cheers, man.
Peace.
So who wants to go next in when we're on that of projects that people mightn't always get the airtime, or projects you think are worth looking into and not in the I want to buy this to flip it in a month's time, one that's kind of long-term or doing something good?
And I feel like
do you want to tackle that, Tommy?
I feel like that's such a tough question because like you said, there's different mindsets and frameworks for what it is that you collect. Because are you in a collectible mind state? Are you in a utility mind state? Are you in a gaming mind state? Are you in an alpha group? Like what it is, what's your flavor? I feel like it really depends on the personality of the person, to be honest with you. I don't think that there's a one-stop shop. I guess the majority, if you had to ask people to be real with themselves, I think most people inside of the NFT space are here to look to make probably some sort of financial benefit or get a financial benefit from it, if we're being honest with ourselves. So I think that tends to be the easiest question, and maybe why we talked about crypto mining NFTs becoming maybe the new meta recently with the success of Goofy Gophers and their Kingdom Trust NFTs, where multiple projects, most notably Dirtbirds, with their Outpost mint, have been able to take advantage of that and scale, basically buy in bulk miners to scale for the next bull run, while mining's cheap. And I see a lot more projects that are either partnering with them or providing that as their main source of utility. So I mean, maybe that there seems to be a heavier flow into that. I personally, I don't know if the math makes sense. If anything, I'd go more with the Goofy Gophers or the Dirtbirds in that sense. I like projects that I'm more of a gaming, I guess. I come from more of the gaming side of things. So projects like Yummy Universe, even recently Cornucopias, I've got a chance to. I've been glued to the racing over there, just testing lap times right now. And then things like Clay Nation I've been involved with for a long time. Obviously, if you guys are into alpha and want the real plays, go ahead and join up with Block and Jelly over there. And outside of that, I'm a huge fan of Old Money. Old Money is a huge project of mine that maybe it's actually, I see a lot more often now. I see a lot more people buying bills, but that to me is an epitome of like an art project where I'm not an art collector either. I'm not the one buying, paintings on my walls and things, but they make me want to, that type of a project. And the community is fun enough over there to a point where it feels like it's one of those homes over here. So those are some of the ones I think on a kind of my top list. Although there's a ton of these you could go ahead and like obviously like an Ape Society is a fun one to go ahead and play with for DeFi. You could pick a tool, any of these new ones, Tappies, Toolheads. There's so many of them. Cardano Croc Club. I could name a bunch of them, but I don't know. It's all preference, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Blake had it right in the mindset. Depends on what you're looking for. And you touched on it there as well. And rightly like that. A lot of people are here just to look to earn money or what they can earn longer term, unless you're hardcore gamer and that's what you're into, or you're into the collectible side. But Jason, what about I suppose we're gonna have to say jelly cubes anyway, but outside of jelly cubes.
Yeah, I mean, it's very Tommy, and I pulled up Tab Tools to just kind of look at the projects. I mean, Tommy brought up a really good point. It depends what you're looking for, right? Like, are you someone, and it also depends what your goal is. Like, if your goal is to make as much money as possible, that's a different situation than you wanting to collect something that you really like art-wise, and or something that you're getting entertainment from, right? Because I think there's different types of NFTs. There's like straight passive income type NFTs, like the mining, where it's like, hey, let's crowdsource money together. Let's buy something that's usually out of reach for the average investor. And let's basically use our community as a way to, elevate this whole entire system, like mining, like Goofy Gophers, and be able to have direct passive income. You can run the different numbers on that and see whether or not that return makes sense to you. There's then other projects that are all brand and IP based. If you like the brand, want to be part of that community, whenever a project has a much larger brand and a dominant brand and a brand with a lot of exposure, it opens up the doors for them to be able to build a lot of stuff and be able to pivot wherever they go. Different art related stuff. So it's really hard to say. One thing I will say though is, projects that I personally relate to the most are projects that have staying power, in the sense that I've seen that whether it's their team or just how long the project has been around, that they've been able to adapt and retain attention, because it doesn't matter what they're doing. If they can't get attention and interest on their project, then that project is just going to slowly die due to new shiny object syndrome, right? So it's like you need to find projects that have some sort of staying power and can actually get attention. Because I even see a lot of developers build really awesome things, but they don't have a way to actually get exposure on them. And then they might have a really good idea, a really good product, but it doesn't actually get anywhere. And even when you look at some of these larger scale ideas like tokenizing assets such as tickets, if you can't actually get the word out there, there's a lot of companies that can. And even though developing some of this stuff takes a lot of resources, what's actually harder to achieve, what I've noticed in this space, is actually getting the eyes on those things that you actually make. So first thing for me is I need a project that actually has staying power, that has an ability to market, that has the ability to get attention, get people interested, has the ability to communicate what exactly they're trying to do, and the leadership that can really pivot and make the different partnerships and make the different decisions to actually make this whole thing happen. So when I'm just like looking at the list here, some projects, and if you go on Tap Tools for people that are listening and don't get into NFTs, you can look at the top 50 by market cap. And even though floors aren't like the one-to-one metric of how valuable a project is per se, it does show some underlying stuff of how people are evaluating it and what all they've been able to deliver or stuff like that. So you see Ape Society, you see EarthNode is number one on there, which they're doing a lot of stuff. They're, directly tied to World Mobile Token, potentially being able to make an income on that. You have Ape Society that's built a strong brand, strong community. They've been able to deliver on a lot of different projects like Levy. You have Book.io that is trying to get into the whole tokenization and blockchain of books and reading and decentralization of that. You have us on there, which is, Jelly Cubes is all about the information, finding about these opportunities and plays. We're building a lot of different stuff. Clay, Space Bud, they're really brand based. Same thing with Dirtbirds. Cardano Crocs Club, they've been building a ton of stuff. So it's interesting. Even when you look at things like, Tappy by Tap Tools, I don't know, like as far as getting value from one NFT, the amount of information and data that you're able to get from one Tappy to unlock is just insane. So even if you're betting on like the overall space in general, and you think a lot more active wallets are going to come in here, past 24 hours, there's been 27,000 active wallets. Just imagine if the space 10 times and you have 270,000 wallets. Now all of a sudden there's going to be people that want this because the information is that valuable. So yeah, I know I went through a kind of a whole spiel there, but it really depends on what you're trying to get into. But at the end of the day, I think it's important to find projects that have that ability to retain attention and be able to get people excited about whatever they're doing.
Yeah, I think another important thing to like piggyback off that is why you can't get if you go out there and you can't spread your self too thin, I guess would be the best advice out there, because there is tons and tons of projects, and like you said, even it's the top 50 of them. Trying to grab one of each of those things is almost impossible at this point. Let alone the time that it takes when you put your money or your time into these NFT projects. You really need to pay attention. That's one thing that I always tell people: you just don't just buy it and then hope that it does its thing. I think that majority of it requires you to be actively engaged a little bit. Hey, is there a new staking thing, or is there a second mint that you get a perk or a benefit for holding on to this? You miss those kind of events if you just kind of buy and then forget about these things. So like you said, I think you find like a niche, find a community that you will fit in with, and then kind of stay there. And then if you want to branch out, or if you want to make a quick little bit of money, you can maybe mint a new project. But I really think it's about finding your kind of group of things that interest you and staying in that little circle. And you don't need to have everything. It is a good way to kind of look at it.
Nice. Yeah, I think we'll wrap up fairly soon. Another 5 minutes, maybe, if you guys are okay. Anyone with final questions, do throw them into the chat below. If you haven't liked, please do like the video. The guys' channels are in the description. If you're new here, do subscribe too. I just want to wait and see if any more comes in. Someone was asking earlier on about where to trade NFTs. I suppose the obvious answer is JPEG Store, and still, the last time I looked, still had the majority or a big majority of the trading volume. But any other places that you guys would tell people to go, or any other marketplaces to look at?
That's a tough one. Yeah, really. I mean, there's marketplaces that are developed for certain projects, right? Like there's certain direct marketplaces, maybe like a Spacebud or a Dirtbird. Outside of that, I mean, there's tons of different ones. There's like DropSpot out there. I've used way back when. I don't use it anymore. It was Flipper way back when that was going on. You got. I'm trying to think of other ones that I've actually engaged with a little bit. Not too many. It's JPEG's really kind of taken over. I really think it's more project based almost at that point, where I've interacted with other marketplaces besides JPEG at the moment, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can see the market data. So the past 30 days, JPEG Store has been 99.4% of all volume on, and I don't think this is like taking.
I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's JPEG Store.
Yeah, I think it is the place to go right now. And I think the only way people can get into that is through aggregation. If any other marketplaces come up, they have to have aggregation where they can say that you can buy off any marketplace with us. And to me, that's one of the only ways that they can really start to try and eat into that. But it's very hard to break into that. Like you look at the transition between CNFT.io and JPEG. JPEG just came in at the right time with smart contracts. They got smart contracts before CNFT.io, and anyone who mightn't have been around then, basically that was a marketplace that didn't have smart contracts. So you had to agree to buy an NFT, and then you sent in your funds, and then you got the NFT back. But what happened a lot of the time, and what annoyed people and made people move away, I think, was if a seller listed an NFT and you agreed to buy it fairly quickly, the seller started to think, oh, wait, maybe I could get more for this. And they canceled the sale and then listed it for higher again, where with smart contracts, you just don't have that ability, which is great. And there was some just around burning of jelly token. Where's it gone? People wondering what kind of jelly you're burning. I think I've seen something today for the first month, you're burning a fairly high percentage of the fees. Or
Yeah, we're burning 100%. So yeah, it's been pretty crazy. We've had about 30 points already of jelly cubes that we're going to burn, which is a pretty crazy number already within 3 days. So for the next month, we're going to be burning 100%. And yeah, it would be too long for this video, but the jelly and the jelly cubes are tied together. So there's actually going to be 30 points less of jelly cubes in existence already, which is really cool. Which is at the minimum 10 jelly cubes, and at the higher end 30 jelly cubes. So pretty cool stuff.
Nice. Let me see, what else did I get? I think I got all of them. A few of the marketplaces have traction. Yeah, it's hard to get that shift in from one marketplace over to the other, because people like what they have. There's some innovations I've seen, like what was it? There's one that has liquid offers where I can put in an offer and I can put it in on 3 collections, and it's the same
drop
ADA.
spot, yeah.
Yes, that's it. Good. And I think features like that have the potential to pull people in, but you really need a lot of marketing on it and a lot of partnerships even behind the scenes with projects that have a big community. If you can start to get some of them, it's bit by bit you can start to pull over. But I think for the last few words, who wants to any roundup? Tommy, from yourself, any closing thoughts on today, or NFTs in general for people?
Yeah, no, I just first appreciate you for the invite over here. Good to officially meet you over here. Been watching your content for a while. Block, always good to catch up with you as well. I'd love to make this, either a monthly thing, bi-monthly, something like that would be great. Because I think there is a lot of good education out here where a lot of people see the stigma of NFTs. It's just, a degen kind of play where people make money and gamble. But there is a lot of builders and great tech that's being developed because of this marketplace, and there's a great community over here as well. So I just appreciate everybody who's tuning in, and the people that are still here, watching and supporting. And it's tough content creation, I think, for NFTs specifically. Also on Cardano. But there's definitely a market there of interested people. So it makes me excited going into this next run, being positioned where we are to kind of appreciate the growth that I think we'll all see as it grows.
Yeah, nice one. Look, I appreciate you coming on. As I said, nice to meet you, and we definitely should do this more regular. I really enjoyed it. I don't get to spend enough of time in the NFT space to see what's going on, and I know lots of people are the same. So it would be great to have you guys on again to keep people updated, and as well, your channels are below for people who want them more regular updates. And what you said there, just about how some people look at NFTs, I think the way that some people look at NFTs is just degen plays and nothing more, is the way that people outside of crypto look at crypto. So we all need to take a step back and think that how we look at something else might be how the people behind us look at what we're doing. But Block, final roundup from yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say too, like what you said is really deep there as well. I remember when I had first gotten to NFTs, it was like Top Shots and, very early on to Ethereum NFTs, like even before Bored Ape came out. And I had gotten burned on a few different plays. And it's kind of interesting like after that had happened and after I had that bad experience, I was like, screw NFTs. Like, I'm not going to pay any attention to this. I got scammed on this, I'm better off getting into the different DeFi plays and stuff like that. And it's interesting because that was the experience of a lot of people as well, in this NFT space early on. And I would just say, like, one of the big things that I've been learning in the space in general, whether that's a project founder, whether that's NFTs, different DeFi projects, it's like there is still so much to be discovered. There's still so much to be unpacked. And it's important to look at the different teams that are behind things, because as this space evolves, the good founders are adaptive. And there's going to be a lot of amazing things that are built from these different projects as times go on, whether that's NFTs or whether that's the DeFi side of things, even the blockchains in general. There's going to be different blockchains, different things are going to be done different ways. I mean, we could have a whole conversation on Midnight that's coming out as well, and another time. But yeah, I would just say keep an open-minded to different things. And at the end of the day, like, NFTs are super cool in the aspect that you have this awesome way of globalizing a community and pooling resources together to make something happen. And I don't think that I think at its core, that ability is so powerful, because it doesn't matter if you're trying to build a brand, whether you're trying to build some sort of product, whatever it is, you now have a whole community that is backing and in a sense incentivized to help make that a reality, and can even pool their resources together to do the same thing, whether that's financial resources or whether that's information, networking, stuff like that. So yeah, that's pretty much the end spiel. There's a lot of great stuff building, and I think at its core, there's a lot of potential in the space.
Nice. Yeah, I think you said there, other chains, we didn't even get into cross-chain stuff tonight. So the next day we might get into that as well. So instead of looking back, we'll be looking at what's going on and then looking forward with cross-chain and stuff like that. Everyone watching, thanks very much for tuning in. Do appreciate it. If you're new here, subscribe. The guys' channels are down below. Give the video a like and share it out if you want to let people know a bit about what's going on with NFTs in the space. And even after this, leave a comment and let us know the types of stuff you'd like to see us talk about the next day as well. And like always, keep the conversation light. Keep it going with how the community wants it to go. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll talk to you soon.
See ya.
Cheers, guys.